The summer of 1957. It was a time of innocence, a time of joy. Children played in the streets, their laughter echoing through the warm air. In Bristol, England, life moved at a slower pace. Neighbors knew each other. They looked out for one another. It was a time when doors were left unlocked, and fear was a distant whisper. But this tranquility was about to be shattered. A darkness was descending upon Bristol, a darkness that would leave an indelible mark on the city's soul. On a seemingly ordinary day, two young siblings, June and Royston Cheesby, vanished. They were last seen playing in a park near their home, their laughter swallowed by the summer breeze. Their disappearance sent shockwaves through the community, shattering the illusion of safety and plunging Bristol into an abyss of fear and uncertainty. The idyllic summer days transformed into a desperate search for the missing children. Days turned into weeks, and the hope of finding June and Royston alive dwindled with each passing hour. The community, once a beacon of unity and warmth, was now gripped by suspicion and dread. The disappearance of the two children had exposed a vulnerability, a chilling reminder that evil could lurk even in the most ordinary of places. The idyllic image of 1950s England, a time of post-war recovery and burgeoning optimism, was irrevocably stained. The case of June and Royston Cheesby, the Babes in the Wood murders, as it came to be known, transcended the boundaries of a local tragedy. It became a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface, a chilling testament to the vulnerability of innocence. The nation held its breath, united in grief and desperate for answers. The search for the missing siblings became a national obsession, a haunting reminder that even in the heart of summer, a cold and unforgiving darkness can extinguish the light. June, a bright and cheerful 10-year-old, and her younger brother Royston, a playful and energetic soul of 7, were inseparable. They were the quintessential image of childhood joy, their laughter a familiar melody in their quiet Bristol neighborhood. On that fateful September day, they had ventured out to a nearby park, eager to bask in the waning days of summer. Their mother, Barbara, watched them go, a familiar ache in her heart as she witnessed their retreating figures, their laughter echoing in the air. Hours passed, and the usual time for their return came and went. The park, once a sanctuary of laughter and play, now stood eerily silent. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the playground, a sense of unease crept into Barbara's heart. The laughter of other children grated on her nerves, a painful reminder of her own children's absence. She alerted her husband Jack, and together they embarked on a frantic search. Word spread like wildfire through the tight-knit community. Neighbors joined the search, their faces etched with worry. The local police, initially treating it as a case of wandering children, soon realized the gravity of the situation. The disappearance of June and Royston was no ordinary case of children straying too far. Something was terribly wrong. As darkness fell, the search took on a new urgency. Flashlights cut through the growing darkness, their beams dancing over the faces of volunteers, their hope fading with each passing hour. The disappearance of June and Royston had cast a pall over the community, their absence felt in every corner, their laughter replaced by a deafening silence. The search continued through the night, a desperate race against time, fueled by a glimmer of hope that the children would be found safe. The disappearance of June and Royston Cheesby sent shockwaves throughout Britain. In the heart of the 1950s, a time of post-war recovery and a burgeoning sense of national optimism, the case struck a nerve. It shattered the fragile peace of mind that had settled over the nation. The newspapers were filled with the story, their headlines screaming in bold letters, fueling a growing sense of unease. The faces of the two children stared out from the front pages, their innocent smiles a stark contrast to the grim news they conveyed. The BBC interrupted its regular programming to broadcast updates on the search, their somber tones reflecting the gravity of the situation. The nation was transfixed, holding its breath, united in their concern for the missing children and the plight of their distraught parents. The case resonated deeply with families across the country, their own children's laughter suddenly laced with a newfound anxiety. The idyllic image of 1950s Britain, a nation rebuilding and striving for a brighter future, was shaken to its core. The case of June and Royston exposed a vulnerability, a chilling reminder that darkness could penetrate even the most seemingly secure corners of society. parents held their children a little tighter, their hearts heavy with a fear they couldn't quite articulate. The disappearance of the two children from a quiet Bristol neighborhood became a national tragedy, a shared experience of fear and uncertainty. It forced the nation to confront its own vulnerabilities, to acknowledge that even in times of peace and progress, darkness could lurk just beneath the surface, ready to snatch away the innocent and shatter the illusion of safety. The case became a defining moment for a generation, a stark reminder that even in the shadow of war, there were other battles to be fought, other monsters to confront. Weeks later, the unthinkable happened. A gruesome discovery in a wooded area not far from the park where June and Royston were last seen shattered the lingering hope and plunged the community into a deeper abyss of despair. The serene landscape, once a place of joy and laughter, was now tainted with the dark shadow of tragedy. A gamekeeper, making his usual rounds, stumbled upon the children's lifeless bodies, hidden among the trees, their small frames ravaged by time and the elements. The sight was haunting, a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the cruelty that can lurk in the shadows. The discovery sent shockwaves through the nation, extinguishing the last flicker of hope and replacing it with the cold reality of a horrific crime. The community, once tight-knit and hopeful, was now engulfed in a collective grief, mourning the loss of innocence and the brutal end of two young lives. The idyllic woodland, once a place of tranquility and escape, was now a crime scene, swarming with police officers, their faces grim, their movements betraying the weight of the task at hand. The air was thick with tension, every rustle of leaves and snap of twigs echoing the urgency of their mission. Forensic experts, armed with the limited technology of the time, meticulously combed through the area, searching for any clue, any shred of evidence that could lead them to the perpetrator of this heinous act. They worked tirelessly, knowing that even the smallest detail could be the key to unlocking the mystery. Every fallen leaf, every broken twig was scrutinized. Potential silent witnesses to a tragedy that had gripped the nation. The investigators knew that nature itself could hold the secrets they desperately sought, and they left no stone unturned in their quest for answers. The investigation, launched with a fervor fueled by national outrage and a desperate need for justice, faced numerous challenges. The dense underbrush and the passage of time had obscured many potential clues, making the task of piecing together the events even more daunting. Forensic science was in its infancy. DNA analysis still decades away. The tools at their disposal were rudimentary by today's standards, and the investigators had to rely heavily on their instincts and experience to guide them through the labyrinth of evidence. The police relied on traditional methods, witness statements, fingerprint analysis, and the tedious process of piecing together circumstantial evidence. They interviewed anyone who might have seen or heard something, hoping to find a thread that would lead them to the truth. The investigation, hampered by the limitations of the time, seemed to hit dead end after dead end, each failed lead deepening the frustration and fueling the public's demand for answers. The pressure was immense, and the weight of the nation's expectations bore heavily on the shoulders of the investigators. Despite the challenges, the investigators pressed on, driven by the grim determination to bring the perpetrator to justice. They knew that giving up was not an option, and their resolve only grew stronger with each passing day. They interviewed countless individuals, painstakingly building a timeline of the children's last movements, hoping to uncover any inconsistency, any slip-up that could lead them to the killer. Every detail, no matter how small, was meticulously recorded and analyzed. The investigation was a race against time, a desperate search for truth in a case that had shaken the nation to its core. The clock was ticking, and the investigators knew that every moment counted. They worked around the clock, driven by a sense of duty and a burning desire to bring closure to the grieving families and a shocked nation.